Today we are going to study the Herrings-Breuer inflation reflex. This Herrings-Breuer inflation reflex was invented by Elwood Herrings and Joseph Breuer. Okay, so when it works, when the lungs get overinflamed, when the lungs get overinflamed, overinflation when occurs to the lungs. It basically occurs when we do any exercise. Okay, so what the function of this Herring-Breuer inflation reflex? It prevents overinflation of the lungs. Overinflation of lungs. So what do you mean by overinflation of lungs? Overinflation means how much air get filled into the lungs, then this reflex is shown by the lungs. So more than 3 times more than, just a 3 times more than vital capacity of the lungs. That means near about 1.5 liters. Okay, lungs get filled with more than 1 liter of the air. That means near about 1.5 liter, that is 3 times more than the vital capacity. Okay, then what happens in the lungs, especially into the bronchi and the bronchioles which are present in the lungs? For example, this is a bronchi and these are the bronchioles. Okay, these bronchioles having pulmonary stretch receptors. For example, these having the bronchi and bronchioles. These are the bronchioles. Okay, these bronchioles having this, what I have shown, that is a pulmonary stretch receptors. Pulmonary stretch receptor. Okay, so these pulmonary stretch receptors are made up of a smooth muscle. These are made up of a smooth muscle. To this pulmonary stretch receptor, the vagus nerve, what is attached to it? That is the vagus nerve. For example, this is the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is a 10th cranial nerve. It's a cranial nerve. Okay, the myelinated neuron especially carries this stimulus towards the brain. What is the function of this vagus nerve? It carries stimulus towards the brain. Okay, so what happens during this? When the lungs get filled with air, the air passes, especially the bronchi and bronchioles, also get inflamed. This especially occurs during overinflation. This passage also get inflamed. Then and then only the pulmonary stretch receptors get activated. Okay, that means overinflation of this air passage, that is bronchioles and bronchi and bronchioles. Okay, it stimulates, it's overinflammation of bronchi and bronchioles stimulates the receptors. Okay, and it carries the action potential towards the brain. Via vagus nerve. Vagus nerve carries this action potential towards brain. So in a brain, there is especially the pons and medulla oblongata. Pons orally and medulla oblongata. Okay, it having the pons having apneustic center, and the medulla having the inspiratory center. Right? So what happens? It provides, or when the overinflamed bronchioles, when the bronchioles get overinflamed, it stimulates the receptors which are present in it, right? Then this stimulus is carried towards the brain via the vagus nerve. Okay, in a brain, the inspiratory center is present in a medulla oblongata, and the apneustic center is present in a pons. Okay, this stimulus reaches to these two centers. As it reaches to the inspiratory centers, it get inhibited. Okay, it get inhibited. As the inspiratory center inhibited, it inhibits the apneustic center. Right? Inhibited. Both get inhibited. Okay? As these both, the inspiratory center and the apneustic center, get inhibited, what happens? It inhibits directly, it inhibits the inspiration. It inhibits the inspiration, right? Inhibits inspiration. When the inspiration is inhibited, as the inspiration is inhibited, that means what happened? It allows expiration. It allows expiration. That's it. This is related with the Herrings-Bureau reflex. Take a glance or overview related with the Herrings-Bureau reflex. So it's the inflation reflex. When it occurs, when the lungs get filled with a maximum gets stretched. Okay, so this reflex occurs because it doesn't allow the bursting of the lungs. Okay, so what happens? It prevents the overinflation of the lungs. Overinflation means the lungs get filled with the air near about it's more than 3 times its vital capacity. That means near about more than 1 liter or up to 1.5 liters. Okay, when the lungs get filled with air, the air passage also get inflamed. That means the bronchi and bronchioles also get inflamed. So what happens? The pulmonary stretch receptors, especially which receives the it receives the stimulus, that means overinflation, they get sensitized or get activated, and when it get activated or stimulated, that stimulus is carried towards the brain via vagus nerve. Okay, the vagus nerve goes to medulla. In the medulla there is an inspiratory center. Okay, it get inhibited. Okay, as it get inhibited, it inhibits apneustic center, which is present in a pons, and both get inhibited, results in inhibition of the inspiration. As the inspiration is inhibited, it allows expiration. So what is the role of pneumotaxic center? Don't confuse between the pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center works during normal breathing, and this is the case where overinflation occurs to the lungs. That means during exercise and forceful inspiration. This Breuer inflation reflex works. So this is for all related with the Breuer inflation reflex. Thank you.